Hello, dear listeners. Before I begin today's story, a story about betrayal, awakening, and choosing oneself, I ask you for a small favor. Please support this channel by subscribing and liking this video. It helps stories like this reach people who need them. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from. It always warms my heart to know how far these stories travel. Now, let me begin. The front door slammed shut 3 hours ago, but the heavy, sugary scent of my daughter Quintessa's perfume still lingered in the hallway. It felt too loud for our old brownstone, a house used to the quiet smells of dust, old wood, and dried lavender. I stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the pantry door. The silence felt different that day. It wasn't peaceful. It was watching me. My name is Yuli. I am 74 years old, and that evening, I was hungry. Not starving yet, just that slow, aching hunger that creeps in at sunset and reminds you that you are still human. I opened the cabinet, empty. Every shelf was clean, too clean.
Quintessa had packed in a rush, throwing bikinis, sundresses, and tanning lotion into her suitcase like a bird desperate to escape a cage. I remembered how she stopped in the doorway, already wearing her shoes, and held out her hand. "Mama, give me your card, just in case the ATM doesn't work." I had hesitated. "That's my whole social security check," I said. "What am I supposed to live on for 2 weeks?" She rolled her eyes. "You have grits. Boil them, add water. It's healthy. Doctors say people your age need less food anyway." Then she left. She flew to the beach with my money, my peace of mind, and apparently my food. I reached for the old glass jar on the top shelf, the one labeled grits in my handwriting from 20 years ago. The jar was almost empty. Only a few gray grains sat at the bottom like dust. There wasn't enough to feed a bird. She hadn't checked, or she didn't care. That realization felt colder than hunger. I searched her room for coins. Nothing. Only chaos. Clothes on chairs, lipstick tubes open, receipts on the floor. Then I found her hotel reservation. 2 weeks at the beach. The total cost? 3 months of my benefits. I stood there, remembering how I'd worn the same coat for decades, how I skipped fruit to buy her shoes, how I saved everything for later. And suddenly, something inside me changed. I walked into the living room. The antiques stared back at me. Silver, porcelain, jewelry, fur coats, furniture older than my memories. My home wasn't a home. It was a museum. And I wasn't the owner, I was the caretaker. That's when I saw the newspaper ad I had circled days earlier without admitting why. Antiques bought, honest appraisal, house calls. My hands trembled as I picked up the phone. The next morning, Mr. Sterling arrived, calm, professional, observant. He looked around and raised his eyebrows. "These aren't trinkets," he said. "No," I replied, "they're chains." I showed him the silver spoons. He offered a price. I refused. I negotiated, and I won. When he left, I stood holding a thick stack of cash. For the first time in years, I felt something warm rise in my chest. Not guilt, freedom. I didn't hide the money. I put on my best coat and walked somewhere I hadn't been in 15 years, the expensive market downtown. I didn't look for discounts. I bought food, real food, cheese, ham, olives, fresh bread, peaches, salmon. At home, I laid out the good tablecloth, used the good plate, ate slowly. Every bite tasted like dignity. When Quintessa called from the beach, laughing over the sound of waves, she asked if I was hungry. I told her calmly, "I'm managing." She laughed. She thought she still owned me. The next day, I sold more. Then I found the documents. A nursing home brochure. a power of attorney with her name on it. She wasn't waiting for me to die. She was planning to send me away. That was the moment mercy left my heart. I sold everything: the paintings, the rug, the clock. I filled my refrigerator until it overflowed with abundance. And then I waited. 2 weeks later, she came home. She expected darkness. She expected weakness. Instead, she found space, light, flowers, and me, calm, dressed well, sipping tea. When she opened the refrigerator, she screamed. Caviar, champagne, fruit, cheese. Her inheritance, cold and edible. I told her the truth. I sold it. I ate it. She called me crazy, threatened doctors, but the contracts were legal. The witnesses were there. And when I showed her the nursing home papers, she went silent. I changed the locks. I gave her the brochure, and I told her to leave. She did. Now my home is quiet again, but this time it's peaceful. I sit on my balcony with coffee and a sandwich. I plan trips. I buy what I enjoy. I no longer save my life for someone else's future. So tell me, dear listeners, did I do the right thing? Where is the line between sacrifice and self-destruction? Write your thoughts in the comments. And remember, your life belongs to you. Thank you for listening.
After Quintessa left that night, the house did not feel empty. It felt honest. For the first time in many years, the silence was not accusing me. It wasn't reminding me of everything I had failed to give. It wasn't asking me to apologize for existing. I washed my cup, dried it carefully, and placed it back in the cabinet. Then I sat by the window and watched the streetlights flicker on, one by one. I slept deeply that night. No hunger pains, no fear of tomorrow, just rest. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. That surprised me. For years, my body had learned to sleep late, as if waking early served no purpose anymore. But that day, I rose easily. I made coffee, real coffee, not the watered-down kind I had been stretching for weeks. As the steam rose, memories came with it. I remembered Quintessa as a little girl, holding my hand too tightly whenever she crossed the street. I remembered sewing her dresses, packing her lunches, cheering at school events, even when my legs ached. I asked myself a hard question. Where did we lose each other? There was no single answer. It happened slowly, quietly, like erosion. A few days later, my phone rang. It was my sister-in-law, Marion. "Yuli," she said carefully, "Quintessa called me. She's upset." I smiled softly. "I imagine she is." Marion hesitated. "She says you sold everything, that you're not thinking clearly." I looked around my living room, now lighter, simpler, cleaner. "I've never been more clear," I replied. There was a long pause. Then Marion sighed. "I wish I had your courage." That surprised me more than anything else. Weeks passed. I began to change small things. I replaced heavy furniture with lighter pieces. I donated clothes I no longer needed. I walked every morning, slowly at first, then farther each day. People started noticing. The cashier at the market said, "You look younger." I laughed. I just stopped carrying weight that wasn't mine. One afternoon, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a single page. "Mom, I didn't mean to hurt you. I was stressed. I didn't think you'd actually do it. We need to talk." I read it twice. There was no apology, no accountability, only surprise that I had finally stood up. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Not everything needs an answer. That evening, I cooked salmon with lemon and herbs. I played soft music. I ate slowly, enjoying each bite. I thought about how many meals I had rushed through in my life, always worried about someone else's needs. I made a promise to myself then. I will not disappear quietly. A month later, Quintessa showed up again. This time, she knocked. I opened the door calmly. She looked different, less confident. Her voice trembled. "Can we talk?" I nodded. We sat across from each other, a table between us that felt wider than any ocean. She spoke first. "I was scared," she said. "I thought if I didn't take control, I'd lose everything." I looked at her gently. "You already did," I replied. "You lost my trust." Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't think you'd survive without me." That hurt more than anything she had ever done. "I survived because I let go of you," I said quietly. I told her everything. The hunger, the fear, the nursing home papers. Her face changed when she realized I knew. "She was just planning ahead," she whispered. "So was I answered. When she left that day, it was different. There were no slammed doors, only understanding. We did not reconcile completely. Healing takes time. Sometimes distance is part of love. Now my days are simple. I read books, I garden, I travel occasionally, I laugh more. I no longer measure my worth by how much I sacrifice. And here is what I learned, dear listener. Love does not require starvation. Care does not mean erasing yourself. And it is never too late to choose dignity. If you are listening to this and feel invisible, if you feel taken for granted, if you are tired of being strong for everyone else, please remember, you still belong to yourself. After that conversation, something inside me finally settled. Not everything was healed, but the noise in my chest, the constant feeling that I was about to be taken from, quieted. For the first time, I was not waiting for the next demand. One morning, I found an old photo album while cleaning a drawer. The pages were yellowed, the plastic sleeves cloudy with age. I sat by the window and turned each page slowly. There I was, younger, standing beside a man with kind eyes and tired shoulders. My husband, Elias. He had died too early. After he passed, I had promised myself that Quintessa would never feel alone. Somewhere along the way, that promise turned into permission. Permission for her to take and take and take. I closed the album. "I did the best I could," I whispered aloud. And for once, I believed it. A few weeks later, I joined a small community center nearby. They offered gentle yoga for seniors, book discussions, and shared lunches on Wednesdays. The first day, I almost turned back. Old habits die hard. I had spent years shrinking myself, avoiding attention. But I went inside. A woman named Ruth smiled and moved her chair so I could sit beside her. "You're due," she said. "Yes, and a little late to life." She laughed. "Aren't we all?" That became my place. At lunch one Wednesday, someone asked, "Do you have children?" I paused. "Yes," I said carefully. "I have a daughter." "How lovely," another woman smiled. I nodded, but didn't explain further. Some stories don't need to be shared with everyone. Time passed. Quintessa sent messages now and then, short ones, careful ones. "How are you? Hope you're well." I replied politely, briefly. We were learning new boundaries, awkward ones, necessary ones. One afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. "Mrs. Unley," a young voice said, "this is Dr. Henson from Community Health." I stiffened. "Yes?" "Your daughter contacted us earlier this year. She was asking about long-term care options." I closed my eyes. "I won't be needing those services," I said calmly. "Thank you." The doctor hesitated. "I'm glad to hear that, and I'm sorry if you felt pressured." I hung up slowly. That chapter was truly closed now. Later that evening, I stood in front of the mirror and studied my reflection. The wrinkles were still there, but my eyes were different. They no longer looked apologetic. I decided to do something bold. I booked a trip. Nothing fancy, a small seaside town, a place where mornings smelled like salt and coffee. When I told Ruth, she squeezed my hand. "Good," she said. "The world doesn't end at 70, it opens." On that trip, I woke early each day. I walked barefoot on the sand. I ate pastries without guilt. I watched children laugh and couples argue and old men feed birds. Life was happening, and I was part of it again. When I returned home, Quintessa was waiting outside my door. She looked nervous. She said, "I heard you traveled." "Yes," I replied, "I did." She swallowed. "You didn't tell me." I met her eyes. "That's part of being an adult," I said gently. "We inform, we don't ask permission." She nodded slowly. "I'm trying," she said. "So am I answered. That night, after she left, I cooked dinner for one. I turned on the radio, I hummed along, I laughed at a silly commercial. Small joys, real joys. Dear listener, if you've stayed with me this long, hear this. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not cruel for setting limits. You are not too old to begin again. Sometimes the bravest thing we do is stop sacrificing silently. And sometimes the refrigerator full of food is not about hunger at all. It's about finally giving yourself permission to live.
Life did not suddenly become perfect after that, but it became mine. That alone changed everything. One quiet afternoon, rain tapped softly against the windows. I sat in my armchair with a blanket over my legs, a book open but unread in my hands. My mind drifted, as it often did now, not to worries, but to possibilities. I thought about all the years I had lived on pause, waiting, saving, enduring. I realized something then that made me smile sadly. I had been preparing for a future that was never guaranteed, while ignoring the present that was begging to be lived. The next week, I made another decision. I volunteered. At a local library, they needed someone to read to children once a week. The idea terrified me at first. Children are honest. They see everything. But on my first day, a little boy tugged at my sleeve and asked, "Can you do the voices?" I laughed. "I can try." And I did. For an hour, I wasn't an old woman with a complicated past. I was just a storyteller. The children listened with wide eyes, hanging on to every word. When I finished, they clapped. I walked home lighter than I had in decades. Quintessa noticed the changes. "You're always busy now," she said one day on the phone. Not accusing, just surprised. "Yes," I replied. "It's wonderful." There was silence on the other end. "I don't remember you being like this," she said. "I don't either," I answered honestly. One evening, she asked if she could come for dinner. I hesitated, but I said yes, not because I felt obligated, but because I wanted to see who we might become next. She arrived carrying a small bag of groceries. "I brought dessert," she said awkwardly. That alone told me how much had shifted. We cooked together. Not perfectly. We bumped into each other in the kitchen. We laughed. At the table, she looked at me carefully. "You seem happier," she said. "I am," I replied. "Was I really that bad to you?" she asked quietly. I considered the question. "You were thoughtless," I said gently, "but I allowed it. We both played our parts." Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't know how much you were giving up." "That's the danger of silent sacrifice," I said.
people assume it costs nothing. After dinner, she helped me wash dishes. When she left, she hugged me, not quickly, not awkwardly. Something fragile but real had begun. Months passed. I continued my routines: walks, reading, friends, small trips. I celebrated my 75th birthday with people who chose me, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. There was cake, there were candles. I made a wish, not for more years, but for more presence. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about the version of myself who stood in that empty kitchen, staring at an empty pantry. I wish I could reach back and touch her shoulder. I would tell her, "This is not the end. This is the beginning." Dear listener, if this story feels familiar, let me say this clearly. You do not owe anyone your suffering. You do not need permission to protect yourself. And love should never require you to disappear. It is never too late to open your refrigerator or your life and fill it with what sustains you. As the seasons changed, I began to notice time differently. It no longer rushed past me like something I was failing to keep up with. Instead, it moved beside me, quiet, steady, patient. Autumn arrived softly. Leaves gathered along the sidewalk like forgotten letters. I swept my porch every morning, not because it needed to be perfect, but because I enjoyed the rhythm of it. Small routines became anchors. One afternoon at the community center, Ruth sat beside me and said, "You walk like someone who finally knows where she's going." I laughed. "That's funny, I don't have a destination." She smiled. "Exactly." Quintessa continued to change slowly, not dramatically, not magically, but genuinely. She began calling just to ask about my day. Sometimes she asked for advice, real advice, not validation. When she listened instead of interrupting, I noticed. Once she said, "I didn't realize how strong you were." I answered calmly, "Strength doesn't always look like silence." She nodded, as if writing that sentence somewhere inside herself. One evening, she asked me something unexpected. "Mom, what do you want now?" The question startled me. No one had asked me that in years. I thought carefully before answering. "I want peace," I said, "and curiosity. I want to wake up wondering what might happen instead of worrying what I might lose." She didn't respond right away. "I want that too," she said finally. Winter came. The house felt warm, not just from the heater, but from intention. I lit candles. I cooked soups. I invited friends over for simple meals. Laughter echoed in rooms that once held only obligation. I realized then, homes remember how they're treated. Mine was finally learning joy again. One snowy afternoon, I slipped on the front steps. Nothing broke, but the shock rattled me. Quintessa rushed over when she heard. She hovered, anxious, apologetic. "I should have been here," she said. I held her hand. "You don't need to rescue me," I told her. "Just walk beside me." That moment changed something between us. Care without control, presence without possession. As spring returned, I planted flowers along the fence. Bright ones, bold ones, colors I used to think were too much. Watching them grow felt symbolic. I wasn't shrinking anymore. At the library, one of the children asked me, "Why do you smile when you read?" I thought for a moment. "Because stories remind us we can change," I said. And it was true. On my 76th birthday, I wrote myself a letter. I thanked myself for surviving, for learning, for choosing differently. I sealed it and placed it in a drawer. Some promises are meant to be private. Dear listener, if you are still here, let me leave you with this truth. Sometimes the hardest chapter is not the painful one, it's the one where you finally stop being needed. But in that space, something extraordinary can grow, a life that belongs to you. And that is worth everything. As the flowers bloomed along my fence, neighbors I had barely spoken to before began stopping to admire them. "They're beautiful," one woman said. "Thank you," I replied. "They're new, like me." She laughed, not knowing how true that was. I began keeping a small journal. Nothing fancy, just a notebook where I wrote one thing each night that made me feel alive. Some days it was something big, like finishing a book or planning a short trip. Other days it was small, like warm sunlight on my hands or the smell of fresh bread. I realized joy didn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispered. One evening, Quintessa asked if she could join me for one of my morning walks. We walked slowly, side by side. She talked about her worries, her work, the pressure she felt to always be moving forward. I listened, not as a mother trying to fix her, but as a woman who understood. "You don't have to run so hard," I told her. "Life isn't chasing you." She exhaled deeply. "I wish I had learned that earlier." "So do I said, "but we learn when we're ready." Later that week, she surprised me again. She apologized. Not quickly, not defensively. "I was afraid of becoming you," she admitted. "Old, dependent, invisible." I stopped walking and faced her. "I was never invisible," I said gently. "I was just standing behind you." Tears rolled down her face. That was the moment I knew she finally saw me. Summer arrived. I hosted a small gathering in my backyard. Nothing fancy, just food, music, and conversation. Friends from the community center came. A neighbor brought pie. Quintessa helped set the table. As I watched everyone laugh together, I felt something deep and unfamiliar. Pride. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind that says, "I built this." Later that night, after everyone left, Quintessa stayed behind. "I'm glad you didn't disappear," she said softly. "So am I replied. As the years passed, I learned to accept help without surrendering myself. A ride when I needed it, a hand on icy steps, a shared meal. Support felt different when it wasn't forced. Sometimes I still think about the antiques I sold. Do I miss them? No. Objects are easy to replace. Time is not. One afternoon, I returned to that expensive market downtown, the one where I first bought food with my own money. I walked the aisles slowly, smiling. That place would always remind me of the moment I chose myself. I bought peaches again. Some habits are worth keeping. Dear listener, if you've been walking this journey with me, let me say this clearly. You are allowed to change the rules of your life at any age. You are allowed to say, "This no longer works for me." And when you finally choose yourself, you don't lose love. You discover what real love looks like. As another year passed, I began to understand something important. Healing does not arrive all at once. It comes in pieces, moments, small choices repeated every day. Some mornings, I still woke up with an old heaviness in my chest. Not sadness exactly, just memory. Years do not disappear just because we learn from them. On those mornings, I made myself tea and sat quietly until the feeling softened. I no longer fought it, I listened. One day at the library, a young woman stayed behind after the children left. "My mother lives with me," she said nervously. "Sometimes I feel trapped." I looked at her and saw myself decades earlier. "Love should not feel like a cage," I said gently, "but neither should responsibility feel like a punishment." She nodded, eyes full of tears. "Talk to her," I added, "and talk to yourself too." She hugged me before leaving. I realized then that my story wasn't just mine anymore. Quintessa began visiting more often, but never unannounced. She asked instead of assumed. She offered instead of demanded. One afternoon, she brought old photographs she had found. "Can we look at them together?" she asked. We sat side by side, laughing at hairstyles, remembering small moments neither of us had thought mattered at the time. "This one," she said, pointing at a photo of me smiling beside her as a child, "you look so happy." I was, because I was present. She was quiet for a long time. "I want to remember you like this," she said. "So do I answered. As my body slowed, my spirit grew lighter. I stopped apologizing for resting. I stopped explaining my choices. I stopped measuring my value by usefulness. Freedom does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like a peaceful afternoon nap. One winter evening, a storm knocked out the power. The house grew dark and silent. I lit candles and wrapped myself in a blanket. I wasn't afraid. I realized then that independence doesn't mean never needing anyone. It means knowing you'll be okay, even when you're alone. When the lights came back on, I laughed softly. Life, I thought, is strange and kind and difficult all at once. Another birthday came and went, then another. I stopped counting them. Instead, I counted mornings, conversations, walks. I counted how many times I smiled without forcing it. One evening, Quintessa asked me something quietly. "Are you afraid of getting older?" I thought for a moment. "No," I said. "I'm afraid of not living while I still can." She squeezed my hand. Dear listener, if you are still here, let me tell you something important. It is not selfish to reclaim your life. It is not wrong to protect your peace, and it is never too late to become visible again. Some people spend their whole lives waiting to be chosen. I chose myself, and that choice changed everything. As spring arrived that year, I noticed things I had forgotten to notice before. The soft hum of bees in the garden, the way sunlight spilled over the floor in the afternoon, the smell of rain on the pavement. I started keeping a small journal again, not to record obligations or appointments, but to write little observations, a child laughing, a stranger smiling, a memory that made me chuckle. It was a strange kind of magic, how tiny things, when noticed, could build a bridge over old sadness. Quintessa and I began taking small trips together. We didn't go far, sometimes just a walk by the river, but I could feel her seeing me as more than the old, tired woman she sometimes remembered. One afternoon, we found a quiet cafe tucked behind a row of shops. The walls were lined with old books, and soft music played in the background. We ordered tea and sat by the window. "I like this," she said. "Why?" I asked. "Because it's calm," she replied. "It doesn't ask us to be anyone but ourselves." I smiled. I thought about how long it had taken me to learn that simple truth. The seasons passed and life continued quietly. I began reaching out to old friends, some I had lost touch with for decades. Some had moved on, some had stayed the same, and some had grown in ways that surprised me. Each conversation felt like a small victory, proof that the world could still hold connection even when it felt as though it had been closed off for so long. One day, I received a letter from an unexpected source, my old neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove. She had always been kind to me, quietly observing, never interfering. "Grace," she wrote, "I think you found the courage that I admired so much but never had myself. Don't stop being brave." I held the letter close and felt something I hadn't felt in years, a gentle pride. Winter returned, harsh and cold, but I didn't feel trapped by it anymore. I learned to enjoy the small pleasures, a warm blanket, hot soup, the way snowflakes clung to the windowpane. I began volunteering at the local community center, not out of obligation, but out of desire to connect. It was humbling, exhausting at times, but also invigorating. I realized that even at 75, I could still learn, still give, still touch someone else's life. And then, one quiet evening, sitting by the fireplace, I reflected on my journey. I thought of the years I had spent carrying burdens that were not mine alone. I thought of the moments I had spent in fear. I thought of all the laughter I had ignored, all the beauty I had overlooked. And I smiled, because I had finally arrived at a place where life could be simple yet profound, where love was no longer a weight, but a choice, where peace was no longer an abstract dream, but a daily practice. Quintessa came to sit beside me that night. She had grown into a young woman of kindness and thoughtfulness, someone I was proud to call my daughter, someone who reminded me that life moves in cycles. "Mom," she said softly, "I feel like we're really seeing each other now." "Yes," I replied, "and it's about time." We sat together in silence, letting the quiet speak, and in that silence, I realized that this was what happiness often looked like, not the grand gestures, but the small, steady presence of someone who cares, and the courage to care for oneself. Dear listener, if you are listening to this story, remember this: your life is not defined by the mistakes of the past or by the judgments of others. It is defined by the moments you choose to be present, by the courage to embrace yourself fully, and by the love you give, not because it is demanded, but because it feels right.
Spring had turned into summer, and the garden behind my house was alive with color. I had never considered myself a gardener, but somehow caring for those small plants became a meditation. Each morning I would step outside, cup a handful of soil, water the thirsty flowers, and watch life grow before my eyes. Quintessa would often join me, barefoot, her hair tangled from sleep, and we would talk about everything and nothing: school, dreams, memories. There was something healing about this routine. It was ordinary, yet extraordinary, because it was ours. One afternoon, a neighbor's cat wandered into our garden. Quintessa immediately fell in love and named it Marmalade. I had never been fond of cats, too independent, too elusive, but Marmalade had a gentle charm. Soon I found myself looking forward to the cat's visits, laughing at the way it knocked over flower pots or curled up in the sunniest spots. It was strange how life could surprise you with small joys. Not everything was perfect, of course. Some days loneliness still crept in, especially in the quiet moments before sleep. I would think about friends I had lost, moments I could not reclaim, and opportunities that had slipped away. But I had learned a valuable lesson. These feelings were part of life, not the entirety of it. I could acknowledge them, feel them, and still move forward. One particularly hot summer day, I received a phone call from an old school friend, Eleanor. We hadn't spoken in over 40 years. "Grace," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "it's been too long. Can we meet?" We arranged to meet at a small cafe downtown. Seeing her again was like opening a long-forgotten book. The familiar warmth, the shared memories, the laughter that spilled freely as if no time had passed at all. We talked for hours, sharing stories of marriages, children, mistakes, and victories. I realized that friendship, like love, does not always fade. It sometimes waits quietly, ready to bloom again. That evening, I walked home through the streets lined with golden light. I paused at the corner where I had once waited for a bus that never seemed to arrive on time, where I had felt small and forgotten. Now it felt like a place of possibility, not disappointment. Life had taught me patience. Life had taught me resilience. Life had taught me to notice the beauty even in the ordinary. Summer faded into autumn, the air became crisp, the leaves turned fiery shades of orange and red, and I began taking long walks with Quintessa and Marmalade in tow. During one of these walks, we stumbled upon a small community theater hosting an amateur play. The performers were nervous but passionate. Something inside me stirred. I hadn't acted in decades, but a spark of curiosity flared. "Do you want to try?" Quintessa asked, noticing my hesitation. Maybe I should," I replied, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. And so I did. I joined the community theater, starting with small roles, learning lines, rehearsing, laughing at my mistakes. The experience was liberating. I realized that creativity did not have an age limit, it simply waited for permission to bloom. Through the theater, I met people of all ages. Some were students, some retirees, some had stories like mine. We shared tea, jokes, and moments of vulnerability. For the first time in decades, I felt fully part of a community again, not as a shadow, not as a passive observer, but as someone alive, engaged, and seen. One chilly evening after rehearsal, I sat by the river with Quintessa. The water glimmered under the moonlight. "Mom," she said softly, "I think you've changed." I smiled. "Not changed, darling. I've just remembered who I was, and maybe who I can still be." Quintessa squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you." And in that moment, I felt a profound peace. Life was messy, unpredictable, and sometimes unfair, but it was also beautiful, tender, and filled with moments that made the heart expand with joy. I realized then that happiness isn't a single grand event. It isn't something you achieve once and hold on to forever. It is a collection of moments, small, fleeting, imperfect, but when noticed, they accumulate into a life that feels full and meaningful. Even at 75, I understood this truth. Life could still surprise me. Life could still teach me. Life could still make me laugh, cry, and fall in love with the world all over again.
Autumn deepened, and the city streets were painted with gold and crimson leaves. The chill in the air brought a quiet stillness, perfect for reflection. I found myself wandering into the local library more often, drawn by the comforting scent of old books and the soft rustle of pages. It was there, among the shelves, that I met Mr. Hamid, an elderly man with bright eyes hidden behind round spectacles. He was organizing a small reading club for seniors. "Would you like to join?" he asked. I hesitated. I hadn't read aloud to anyone in years, not since Quintessa was a little girl, but something about his gentle tone convinced me. And so I joined. Each week, we gathered in a cozy corner of the library, sharing stories, poetry, and personal memories. At first, I was timid, but slowly my voice grew steadier. I shared anecdotes from my youth, little-known family tales, and the story of my journey with Quintessa. The group listened, laughed, and sometimes cried with me. I realized that even at my age, my stories could touch others, and that was a revelation. Life hadn't ended, it had merely shifted into a new, unexpected chapter. One evening, after a reading session, a young woman approached me. "Your story about your mother," she said softly, "it reminded me of my own grandmother. Thank you for sharing it." Her words hit me in a way I hadn't expected. I had always thought my life was small, insignificant, but hearing that my experiences could inspire or comfort someone else, it was a humbling, magical feeling. Winter arrived quietly, covering the world in frost and snow. The garden I had tended so carefully during summer was now blanketed in white, but the memory of those vibrant blooms warmed me. Quintessa had started high school, and her world was changing too. She brought home stories of friendships, achievements, and small heartbreaks. One day, she came to me, holding a folded piece of paper. "Mom, this is for you," she said. Inside was a drawing, a stick figure of a woman watering flowers, a small child beside her, and a tiny cat in the corner. At the bottom, in childish handwriting, "You make life beautiful." Tears blurred my vision, but I smiled. It was simple, yet it meant everything. Around the same time, the theater group was preparing for their winter play. I had been given a larger role this time, a character who, like me, had a long history and a resilient heart. Rehearsals were challenging, but I loved every moment, the camaraderie, the laughter, the shared passion. Opening night arrived, and I stood backstage, heart pounding. As the lights dimmed, I realized that the nervousness I felt was the same as I had felt as a young woman stepping into the unknown. Only now I embraced it. Life was full of firsts, and it never stopped offering them. The audience laughed, cried, and clapped with genuine warmth. After the final bow, the cast gathered backstage, exhausted but exhilarated. One of the younger actors whispered, "You're amazing, Mrs. Grace. You inspire me." I laughed softly, a little embarrassed, but inside my heart swelled. Inspiration didn't have an age limit either. Winter melted into spring once again. The garden bloomed anew, Quintessa's laughter filled the house, and Marmalade had become a constant mischievous companion. Life was not perfect, but it was rich with meaning, connection, and moments that reminded me that every day held potential. One quiet afternoon, I sat by the river, sketchbook in hand. I had taken up drawing, something I had always dreamed of but never pursued. My sketches were imperfect, but each stroke was a celebration of life. Quintessa joined me, and we drew side by side, occasionally laughing at our attempts to capture the world on paper. "Mom, I think you've taught me the most important thing, to keep trying no matter your age." I smiled, holding her hand. "And you've reminded me that it's never too late to start again." By now, I understood that life's beauty lay in its unpredictability. It was not the grand milestones alone that mattered, but the small moments. Laughter shared, hands held, stories told, flowers grown, friendships rekindled, and dreams pursued, even late in life. I was 76 years old, yet I felt more alive than I had in decades. My past had shaped me, but it did not define me. Every day was a chance to create, connect, and discover. And so I moved forward, not with the urgency of youth, but with the calm, steady joy of someone who had learned to embrace life fully, with all its messiness, surprises, and magic.
Spring had fully arrived, and the world seemed alive again. The air was filled with the scent of blossoms, and the sun lingered longer each day. I had recently started taking morning walks along the river, a ritual that brought me peace and quiet reflection. Marmalade would trot beside me, ears perked and tail wagging like a tiny metronome of happiness. One morning, as I was walking, I noticed a small crowd gathered near the riverbank. Curious, I approached and saw a group of young artists painting the landscape. Their canvases were filled with bold, bright strokes, each capturing the energy of the city in a way that was completely different from my own sketches. "Would you like to try?" a young woman with curly hair asked me. I hesitated, remembering the timid strokes of my early sketches, but something inside me nudged me forward. I set my bag down and picked up a brush. The colors felt alive in my hands. As I painted, I realized that creativity had no age limit, and passion could bloom at any moment, just like the flowers in my garden. The young artists were kind and encouraging, and soon we were all laughing and comparing our work. One of them said, "Grace, you have an eye for capturing life's quiet moments. It's beautiful." I smiled, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in years. That summer, Quintessa approached me with a surprising idea. "Mom," she said, "let's go on a road trip. Just you, me, and Marmalade. No plans, no schedules, just exploring." I laughed, both nervous and excited. I hadn't taken such a spontaneous trip in decades, but the thought of adventure, of new stories waiting to be written, thrilled me. We packed the car with essentials, including my sketchbook, a small camera, and Marmalade's favorite blanket. The open road stretched before us, promising freedom and discovery. We drove through quaint towns, stopping at roadside cafes, flea markets, and small museums. Each place offered its own stories and surprises. In one village, we met an elderly couple who had been married for over 50 years. They shared tales of love, hardship, and resilience, and I realized that every person we met carried a lifetime of stories worth hearing.
One night, we camped near a lake. The sky was so clear that the stars seemed close enough to touch. Quintessa and I lay on a blanket, pointing out constellations, sharing dreams, and laughing until our cheeks hurt. "Mom," she said, "I think this is one of the best days of my life." I squeezed her hand. "Mine too, sweetheart. Mine too." As the weeks passed, I found myself writing more. I started a journal for the first time in decades, filling pages with reflections, sketches, and memories. I wrote about the people I had met, the small moments that mattered, and the lessons life had taught me. Writing became a companion, helping me make sense of the chaos, the joy, and the sorrow. During this time, Marmalade grew older, moving slower but always with a spark in his eyes. Quintessa would often joke, "Mom, I think he's teaching us patience too." And in a way, he was. Life, like Marmalade, didn't always move quickly, but it had its own rhythm, and if we paid attention, it was full of joy. One afternoon, as summer began to fade, I received a letter in the mail. It was from an old friend I hadn't seen in decades. We had lost touch over the years, but reading her words, full of warmth, nostalgia, and laughter, reminded me of the importance of reconnecting. We arranged to meet at a small cafe. When I saw her, it was as if no time had passed. We shared stories, hugged, and laughed until tears ran down our cheeks. That day reminded me that no matter how much time passes, true friendships always leave a mark. Autumn approached again, and with it the feeling that life was a continuous circle of beginnings and endings. I reflected on the years gone by, the losses, the triumphs, the laughter, and the quiet evenings spent alone or with loved ones. I realized that life's beauty wasn't in avoiding hardship, but in embracing it, in learning to grow from it, and in cherishing every fleeting moment. I had lived through pain and humiliation, but I had also discovered joy, love, and the limitless power of small acts of courage, like joining a reading group, picking up a paintbrush, or taking a spontaneous trip with my daughter. And now, at 76, I knew that my story was far from over. Life still had surprises, lessons, and adventures waiting. I was no longer a passive observer. I was a participant, an active creator of the days that stretched ahead.
Winter arrived quietly, blanketing the city in soft snow. The world outside looked pristine, like a fresh page waiting to be written on. Marmalade seemed to enjoy the snow more than anyone else, leaping into drifts and leaving tiny paw prints behind. I couldn't help but laugh as I followed him, feeling a lightness in my chest I hadn't felt in years. One cold morning, I found myself at the local library, browsing through travel books. Something inside me stirred, a restlessness I hadn't noticed before. I realized that there were so many places I had always dreamed of visiting but had never gone. From the ancient streets of Europe to the colorful markets of Asia, the world was vast, and I wanted to see it all before my body slowed too much. Quintessa noticed my fascination. "Mom," she said, "why don't we plan another trip? Something big this time." The idea thrilled me. For weeks, we researched, planned, and mapped out a route. We decided to start in Italy, exploring Rome, Venice, and Florence, then travel through Greece, and finally end with a few weeks in Japan. It felt ambitious, perhaps even reckless, but I had learned that life's best memories were born from leaps of faith. Our journey began in Rome. The city was alive with history, every corner whispering stories from centuries past. I stood in the Colosseum, imagining the crowds of ancient times and the gladiators' courage. We wandered through piazzas, tasted fresh pasta from tiny family-run restaurants, and marveled at fountains that had stood for hundreds of years. In Venice, we took gondola rides through the narrow canals, the water reflecting the sun like shards of glass. I sketched the bridges, the buildings, the vibrant life along the waterways. A kind gondolier noticed my work and said, "Signora, you capture the soul of this city.
Keep painting and you will inspire many." His words were simple but powerful, a reminder that art connects us across languages, time, and cultures. Greece was next. We explored the ruins of Athens and walked along the beaches of Santorini. Quintessa and I climbed hills covered in whitewashed houses, the ocean sparkling below us. We spent nights under stars, talking about life, dreams, and the moments that mattered most. Japan was a revelation. The contrast between ancient temples and bustling cities felt like stepping into another dimension. We attended a traditional tea ceremony, visited serene gardens, and explored the neon-lit streets of Tokyo. One evening, we stumbled upon a small bookstore tucked away in an alley. The owner, an elderly man with twinkling eyes, invited us in and told us stories about Japanese poets and artists. I realized how much I loved hearing life stories from strangers. It was like collecting tiny gems of wisdom to keep forever. During this trip, I also started sharing parts of my journey online. I wrote short essays about the people I met, the lessons I learned, and the moments that made me feel alive. Slowly, a small community of readers began following my story. Their comments and messages of encouragement filled me with an unexpected sense of purpose. I realized that even at 76, I could still make a difference, still touch lives. Returning home, I felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. Marmalade had grown slower during our travels, but he was still full of spirit. Quintessa and I spent evenings flipping through our photographs, reminiscing, laughing, and planning our next adventures. I also started mentoring young artists and writers in my neighborhood. Every week, a small group of eager young people would gather at my home, sharing sketches, poems, and stories. I offered guidance, encouragement, and sometimes just a listening ear. Their energy reminded me of the vibrancy of life, and I realized that passing on knowledge and inspiration was one of the most fulfilling things I could do. Through all of this, I learned that life was not about avoiding pain or clinging to comfort. It was about embracing change, seeking adventure, and connecting deeply with people. Humiliation, loneliness, and fear were chapters in my story, but they did not define the whole book. Every friendship, every act of courage, every burst of creativity added color and depth. As the years continued, I realized something remarkable. The more I explored, the more I learned about myself. I discovered strengths I didn't know I had, courage I thought was gone, and a joy that could thrive even in the quietest moments. Even now, as I sit by the window with Marmalade asleep at my feet, I feel a spark of anticipation. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? Perhaps a new adventure, a chance encounter, or a story waiting to be told. Life is long, unpredictable, and beautiful, and I am ready for every single moment of it.
Spring arrived quietly, painting the neighborhood with fresh blossoms. The air smelled like new beginnings, and I felt the same. My travels had opened a door to life I hadn't realized was waiting for me. Yet, even in joy, life had its way of reminding me of fragility. One morning, I received a call from an old friend, Margaret, whom I hadn't spoken to in decades. She had always been the daring one, the friend who encouraged me to take risks when I hesitated. Margaret invited me to visit her in a small town nestled in the mountains. I hesitated for only a moment before saying yes. Adventure, after all, didn't wait. When I arrived, the town was more enchanting than I imagined. Narrow cobblestone streets wound through quaint houses with red-tiled roofs. Spring flowers spilled from every window, and the scent of baked bread from a nearby bakery made my stomach growl. Margaret greeted me with a warm hug, her eyes sparkling like they always had. We spent days exploring forests, climbing hills, and sharing stories by the fireplace at night. Margaret's husband, Thomas, was a gentle man with a love for music. He taught me to play simple melodies on the piano, and soon I was laughing at my own mistakes as I tried to remember which keys to press.
There was a beauty in rediscovering small joys, music, friendship, laughter, that felt as vivid as the grand adventures I had taken around the world. One afternoon, as we walked along a forest path, Margaret turned to me with a serious expression. "Grace," she said, "life is short, but it's also full of second chances. There are things we can still do, dreams we can still chase, even if we've waited too long." Her words struck me deeply. I realized I had been chasing adventure, but there were parts of my own heart I had left unexplored: creative dreams, personal growth, and even love. That evening, under a canopy of stars, Thomas played the piano while Margaret and I sang softly. Something shifted inside me, a quiet understanding that life's richness wasn't only in the places I traveled, but in the people I shared it with and the courage I had to embrace vulnerability. Returning home after the mountains, I felt renewed. I began writing more seriously, turning my travel journals into essays, stories, and reflections on life. I started sharing them online, and the response was overwhelming. People wrote to me from all over the world, thanking me for sharing my experiences and courage. Some had been too afraid to take risks themselves, and my stories inspired them to step out of their comfort zones. I also started experimenting with painting again. I had given up on art for so many years, believing it was only for the young or the naturally gifted. But now, I painted without fear or judgment, capturing sunsets, faces, and moments of pure joy. My small living room became a gallery of color, each piece telling a story of its own. Then, one quiet evening, I received a letter that would change everything. It was from a young woman named Eliza, who had been following my writings online. She wrote about feeling lost, alone, and uncertain about her future, and how my stories had given her hope. Something about her words touched me deeply. I realized my life's adventures had become more than memories. They had become a beacon for others. I replied immediately, and over the next months, we exchanged letters, phone calls, and eventually video chats. Eliza reminded me of my younger self in many ways, hesitant, insecure, but full of untapped potential. Mentoring her became a new adventure, one that I hadn't expected but cherished deeply. Life, I realized, was no longer just about seeking new places. It was about connecting, teaching, and leaving a mark that would last beyond me. I had discovered that even at 77, a person could grow, inspire, and love in ways I had never imagined. Yet, challenges continued. My health, once robust, began to slow me down. Marmalade, now older too, required more care. There were nights I felt exhausted and fragile, but through every hardship, I remembered the lessons of my travels, my friendships, and the kindness of strangers. Courage, I understood, wasn't the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. One particularly reflective afternoon, I sat by the window with Marmalade curled at my feet, the sun spilling golden light across the room. I thought about the long journey of my life, the humiliation I once felt, the adventures I had taken, the people I had met, the love and friendship I had rediscovered. I realized that life was like a vast, unfolding story. Each chapter mattered, no matter how small, and though I once felt like my story had ended before it began, I now understood that the best chapters were still ahead. The following months became a rhythm of discovery. Every morning, I woke with a sense of purpose, something I hadn't felt in years. Writing, painting, mentoring Eliza, it all filled me with a quiet happiness. But life, as it always does, had surprises in store. One morning, while walking in the park near my home, I noticed a small notice pinned to a community board: volunteer travel companions needed for local storytelling workshops. My curiosity was piqued. The idea of sharing my experiences with children and adults alike made my heart race with excitement. I signed up immediately, thinking it could be a new adventure without leaving town. At the workshop, I met a lively group of people, all eager to explore storytelling in their own ways. Some were shy, others boisterous, but all were curious.
I began by sharing my own story, how I had traveled the world, faced fear and humiliation, and rediscovered life's joy in unexpected places. The room was silent at first, then erupted in applause. It was a simple moment, yet profoundly moving. I realized that sharing my life was now a source of inspiration and that others could learn from my mistakes and triumphs. Meanwhile, Eliza had grown from a timid young woman into someone vibrant and confident. She had started her own small blog, sharing stories about courage and self-discovery, often crediting me as her inspiration. Watching her blossom reminded me that our lives are interconnected in ways we often don't see. Sometimes helping someone else grow brings more meaning to your own life than any adventure could. One weekend, a letter arrived from my daughter. We hadn't spoken much after the difficult moments in the past. Her handwriting was hesitant, almost apologetic. She wrote about how she had been thinking of me, regretting past mistakes, and wanting to reconnect. My heart wavered. Part of me feared reopening old wounds, but another part yearned for closure and reconnection. After days of contemplation, I decided to meet her. We met in a quiet cafe, the kind with soft music and warm lighting. When I saw her, I felt a surge of emotions, sadness, hope, and love intertwined. Words were hard at first, but as we talked, I realized how much we had both grown. The awkwardness melted into understanding, and slowly we began rebuilding our relationship. It was far from perfect, but it was real, and that mattered more than anything. As spring turned to summer, I felt a renewed sense of freedom. I took short trips again, sometimes alone, sometimes with Margaret and Thomas. One of our journeys led us to a coastal village famous for its lighthouse. Standing at the edge of the cliffs, watching waves crash below, I felt both small and infinite at the same time. The sea reminded me of life itself, unpredictable, sometimes violent, yet breathtakingly beautiful. At the village, I met an elderly painter named Samuel. He had spent decades capturing the essence of the sea on canvas. I spent days learning from him, watching his technique, and even attempting to paint seascapes myself. His philosophy was simple yet profound. Art is not about perfection, Grace. It's about truth. Tell your truth, and the world will listen. Those words stayed with me, shaping how I approached my own paintings, writings, and even relationships. One day, while painting by the lighthouse, I received a message from a publisher who had read my online stories. They wanted to publish a book, a memoir about my travels, adventures, and reflections on life. My hands trembled as I read the email. For years, I had doubted my voice, thinking it too ordinary to matter. Yet here it was, an opportunity to share my journey with the world. I accepted immediately. Writing the book became a new adventure. Each chapter was a reflection, a memory, a lesson. I poured my heart into it, recounting moments of fear, humiliation, joy, love, and connection. I wrote not just for myself, but for everyone who had ever felt too late, too old, or too scared to live fully. By the time autumn arrived, the book was finished. I held the first printed copy in my hands and felt an overwhelming mix of pride and disbelief. Marmalade purred on my lap, as if sharing in my triumph. I realized that life at 78 was far from over. Every day held the possibility of wonder, connection, and growth. And so I continued living with intention, painting, writing, mentoring, traveling, and loving. I had learned that courage was not about grand gestures, but about small daily acts, picking up the brush, writing a story, sending a letter, forgiving, or simply stepping outside your comfort zone. As I looked back on my life, I understood that the moments of embarrassment, fear, and pain had all shaped me into the person I had become, resilient, compassionate, and full of curiosity. The world was vast, yes, but even within its small corners, a single life could leave a lasting impact.
And in that realization, I found peace, joy, and the excitement to continue writing new chapters no matter what age or stage of life I found myself in.
Winter came gently that year. Snow dusted the trees outside my window, and the world seemed quiet, almost reflective. I found comfort in routine: morning tea, long walks in the park, painting by the fireplace, and writing letters to old friends. Yet, even in the calm, life had surprises waiting. One frosty morning, I received an unexpected invitation from a local school. They wanted me to give a talk about resilience, courage, and living a meaningful life. At first, I hesitated. What could a 78-year-old woman teach teenagers? But then I remembered Samuel's words about truth in art. I realized that sharing my story could inspire others. The auditorium was filled with curious faces, some skeptical, some eager. I began to speak, telling them about the card my daughter once made me read aloud, about my travels, the moments of humiliation, the laughter, and the tears. I spoke about fear, loss, love, and discovering joy in unexpected places. Slowly, I saw their eyes light up, their attention grow. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. A few students approached me afterward, thanking me for showing them that life is never too late for change or adventure. That winter also brought new friendships. I met Clara, a retired nurse, at a local art exhibition. We bonded over our love for painting and our shared experiences of life's challenges. Soon, we began meeting every week, painting, discussing books, and occasionally sharing stories over tea. Clara had a gentle humor, a sharp mind, and a knack for finding joy in the simplest things. I realized that meaningful connections could appear at any stage in life, often when least expected. Meanwhile, my relationship with my daughter deepened. We began to share small routines, weekly phone calls, visits, and even planning short trips together. There were still moments of tension, old habits resurfacing, but slowly patience and love reshaped our bond. I understood that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting the past, but about choosing a better path forward. Spring returned, bringing with it the urge to travel again. This time, I decided to visit the mountains I had once admired from a distance. I rented a small cabin with Eliza and Margaret, determined to spend time together, exploring trails, observing wildlife, and sharing stories by the fire. One afternoon, while hiking along a winding trail, we stumbled upon a small hidden waterfall. The water cascaded into a crystal-clear pool surrounded by mossy rocks and wildflowers. We sat there, letting the cool mist touch our faces, feeling the magic of the moment. Margaret said quietly, "It's like life itself, sometimes hidden but full of beauty if you look closely." I nodded, realizing how simple moments often hold the most profound lessons. During that trip, I received an unexpected email. My book, which I had almost forgotten about in the busyness of daily life, was gaining traction. Readers from around the world were writing to me, sharing how my story had inspired them to pursue their dreams, mend relationships, or find courage in difficult times. One letter in particular stood out. A woman in her 50s wrote that she had left a toxic job because of my book, finally choosing her own happiness. Tears filled my eyes as I read it. I had always wondered if my life mattered, and here, in these small ripples, it did. The mountains also brought quiet reflection. One evening, as the sun set behind the peaks, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I felt a sense of clarity I had never known before. I realized that life is not about avoiding mistakes or embarrassment, but about embracing each moment fully, learning, growing, and connecting with others along the way. On the final night of our trip, we sat by a campfire under a star-filled sky. Eliza shared her dreams of writing a novel, Margaret reminisced about her childhood adventures, and I told stories from my youth and travels. The fire crackled, the stars twinkled, and I understood something essential.
Life's greatest treasures aren't wealth or fame, but the bonds we nurture, the stories we create, and the courage to keep moving forward no matter the age. Returning home, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I continued to write, paint, mentor, and travel in small ways. I joined a local storytelling group, began teaching painting classes, and even started a small podcast where I shared life lessons and stories from my travels. My life had become a tapestry of experiences, connections, and creative expression, woven together by resilience, love, and curiosity. Though the journey hadn't been easy, through humiliation, fear, loss, and doubt, I had come to see that life was always offering moments of beauty and growth, waiting for us to notice. And at 78, I knew with certainty that the adventure was far from over.
As the days passed, I began to notice how different my life felt now. Not louder, not faster, just fuller. Every morning, sunlight slipped through my curtains, and I greeted it with gratitude. I had learned something important. Peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of acceptance. I no longer rushed my mornings. I let time move at its own pace. One afternoon, while cleaning an old drawer, I found the Mother's Day card. The same card, the one that once shattered me. I held it in my hands for a long time. The words no longer hurt the way they once did. Instead, they reminded me of how far I had come. Pain, I realized, does not define us. What we do after pain does. I placed the card back gently, not as a wound, but as a reminder of survival. That same week, my podcast reached more listeners than I ever imagined. People from different countries wrote to me. I listen to your voice when I feel alone. Your story gives me courage. You remind me of my grandmother. Each message felt like a soft hand on my shoulder. I was no longer invisible. One evening, Clara invited me to a small community dinner. I almost declined, old habits, but something inside me said yes. There, among laughter and shared food, I met Henry. He was quiet, kind, with eyes that listened more than they spoke. We talked about books, aging, and the strange beauty of late-life freedom. "There's no pressure anymore," he said softly. "We've already survived." I smiled. That night, I realized companionship doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's simply being understood. Henry and I began walking together in the mornings. No promises, no labels, just footsteps side by side. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. Silence, I learned, can be comfortable when it's shared. Meanwhile, my daughter visited more often. One afternoon, she helped me plant flowers in the garden. "You understand, I wish I had understood you earlier," she said quietly. "So do I, but understanding has no deadline." She hugged me tightly. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it softens the future. As summer arrived, I received an invitation that surprised me. A small storytelling festival wanted me as their closing speaker. Me! I stood on the stage under warm lights, heart steady, voice calm. I once believed my life was over, but I was wrong. Life doesn't end when we age, it deepens. The audience stood to applaud. I felt tall for the first time in years. Back home that night, I sat by the window, watching the moon. I thought about the woman I once was, afraid, humiliated, silent, and the woman I had become, open, brave, alive. Life had not been kind to me at every turn, but it had been generous in second chances. Dear listener, if you're still with me, hear this. You are not too old. You are not too late. You are not a burden. You are a story still being written. And as long as you are breathing, there is another chapter waiting. I know,
because I am living it.
Life did not suddenly become perfect. Some nights I still woke up thinking about the past. Some days my body reminded me of my age, but something had changed. I no longer felt afraid of those moments. I understood now that strength is not loud, it is quiet endurance. One early morning, Henry knocked on my door holding 2 cups of coffee. "I thought we could watch the sunrise," he said. We sat on the porch as the sky slowly changed colors. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, he said, "I lost my wife 10 years ago. I thought my heart was finished." I looked at him gently. "Hearts don't finish," I said. "They rest, and then they open again." He smiled, eyes shining. As weeks passed, Henry became part of my life in small, meaningful ways. He fixed the loose step on my porch. I baked him bread. We shared books, stories, and quiet evenings. There was no rush. Love at this age is not about fire. It is about warmth. One afternoon, Eliza came to visit. She brought her first printed manuscript. "I did it," she said, trembling, "because you believed in me." I hugged her tightly. "No," I whispered, "because you believed in yourself." Watching her grow felt like watching hope take form. That same month, my daughter invited me to spend a weekend with her family. I hesitated, old memories rising, but I accepted. We cooked together, I read stories to my grandchildren, we laughed. At bedtime, my granddaughter asked, "Grandma, are you brave?" I paused. "Yes," I said softly, but not because I'm fearless, because I kept going. On the drive home, tears rolled down my cheeks, not from sadness, from healing. The seasons continued to change, and with them, so did I. I stopped thinking of myself as someone who survived life. I began seeing myself as someone who finally lived it. One evening, as Henry and I walked through falling autumn leaves, he stopped. "I don't want to be alone anymore," he said, "but I don't want to trap you." I took his hand. "You're not trapping me," I said. "You're walking beside me." That was enough. Dear listener, let me tell you something honest. Life does not ask for perfection. It asks for presence. It asks you to stay, even when leaving feels easier. I used to think my story ended with humiliation. I was wrong. It began there. And now, as I look ahead, I know this. Every breath is a chance. Every morning is permission. Every age is allowed to hope. And so I continue, not afraid, not invisible, still becoming. As the years moved forward, time began to feel different. Not shorter, just more precious. I learned to listen to my body. Some days were slow, some days were bright, and some days were quiet enough to hear my own thoughts clearly. I stopped apologizing for needing rest. Rest, I learned, is not weakness, it is respect. Henry and I never made big promises. We didn't talk about forever. We talked about today. Today, we walked. Today, we shared soup. Today, we laughed. And somehow, that felt safer than dreams. One afternoon, the Storytelling Festival invited me back. This time, not as a speaker, but as a mentor. Young writers sat in a circle, nervous and hopeful. One of them asked, "How do you know when your story matters?" I smiled. "When it's honest," I said, "and when it scares you a little to tell it." They wrote silently after that. I watched and felt proud. At home, my book was now translated into another language. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the meaning. Stories travel. Pain travels. Hope travels too. One evening, while cleaning the attic, I found an old mirror. I barely recognized the young woman staring back at me from memory. She had been afraid. She had been quiet. She had been waiting. I whispered to her, "You're safe now." My daughter called more often, not because she had to, because she wanted to. One night, she said, "I used to think you were strong because you endured everything. Now I see you're strong because you changed." That was the apology I didn't know I needed.
Henry's health slowed a little, and so did mine. We adapted. More sitting, more holding hands, more silence. And still, love remained. One winter night, the power went out again. Candles flickered. Henry laughed softly. "Seems familiar." "Yes," I said, "but this time, I'm not alone." He squeezed my hand. Dear listener, if you've ever felt discarded, if you've ever been laughed at, if you've ever believed your best days were behind you, I need you to hear this. Your value does not expire. Your voice does not fade. Your story does not end where someone else stopped listening. I once believed I was a burden. Now I know the truth. I was a lesson. I was a witness. I was a beginning. And as I sit here now, breathing calmly, heart full, I understand something simple and powerful. Life did not give up on me, and I never gave up on myself.
One quiet morning, I woke up before the sun. The house was still. Even Marmalade slept peacefully. I sat by the window and watched the sky slowly change. At my age, mornings feel like gifts, not guaranteed, not rushed, just offered. Henry arrived later that day with a small notebook in his hand. "I started writing," he said, almost embarrassed. I smiled. "Good stories don't belong only to the young." He nodded. "You taught me that." We sat together, reading each other's words. His were about loss, mine were about becoming. Somewhere between those pages, something sacred formed. That summer, I stopped traveling far, not because I was tired of the world, but because the world had finally come to me. Neighbors waved, children listened, strangers recognized my voice. And yet, I remained ordinary. That was the beauty of it. One afternoon, my granddaughter asked me, "Grandma, what's the most important thing in life?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "To be seen, and to see others." She nodded like she understood. Children always do. As time passed, my steps slowed even more, but my heart stayed awake. I learned how to sit with memory without drowning in it. I learned how to say goodbye without fear. Not because goodbye is easy, but because love makes it meaningful. One evening, Henry and I sat quietly as rain tapped against the window. "If one of us goes first," he said softly, "promise me you'll keep telling your story." I took his hand. "I promise," I said, "and you promise me the same." He smiled. "Promises don't have to be long, they just have to be true." Dear listener, I want you to understand something now. Life is not a straight line. It bends, it breaks, it rebuilds. And sometimes the most powerful chapters come after everyone thinks the story is over. I once believed humiliation was the end of me, but it was the moment I woke up. I stopped shrinking, I stopped apologizing, I stopped waiting, and in that space, life finally met me. As I sit here now, older than I ever imagined I'd be, I am not afraid. I am full of memory, full of meaning, full of peace. And if tomorrow does not come, that is okay, because today I lived. The days grew quieter after that. Not empty, just softer. I learned to sit with quiet without trying to fill it. Silence no longer scared me. It felt like a companion, reminding me that I had already said the most important things. Some mornings, Henry and I read side by side. Other mornings, we simply watched the birds argue over seeds in the garden. Life, I learned, doesn't always need commentary. My body asked for more care now. Shorter walks, longer rests, gentler movements. I listened. For the first time in my life, I truly listened. One afternoon, Eliza visited with exciting news. Her book had been accepted by a publisher. "I'm terrified," she admitted. I held her hands. "That means it matters," I said. "Do it anyway." She cried. I smiled. Watching her step into her life felt like watching my own courage echo forward. That evening, I wrote a letter, not to anyone in particular, just a letter. I wrote about fear, about mistakes, about how love changes shape but never disappears. I placed it in a drawer. Some truths don't need an audience. Henry's health faded gently, like autumn leaves loosening from branches. We talked about it honestly. "I'm not afraid," he said. "I've lived more in these years with you than I did in decades alone." I kissed his hand. "So have I." Love does not always arrive early, but when it arrives late, it knows exactly what it's doing. One night, as he slept beside me, I stayed awake listening to his breathing. I didn't panic. I didn't bargain. I just loved. Sometimes the bravest thing is to stay present. Dear listener, hear this clearly now. Life will break you in places you never expected, but it will also rebuild you in ways you never imagined. Do not rush your healing. Do not minimize your pain, and never believe it's too late to begin again. I once felt discarded. Now I feel complete, not because everything turned out perfectly, but because I stopped running from myself. As I close my eyes each night, I no longer ask for more time. I whisper, "Thank you," because I was seen, I was heard, I was loved, and most importantly, I lived as myself. The nights became deeper, calmer. Sleep came easily now, not because life was simple, but because my heart was settled. I no longer replayed old arguments or imagined different endings. The past had finally loosened its grip. I had made peace with what was. One morning, Henry didn't wake up right away. I watched him breathe, slow and steady. I felt no fear, only awareness. I held his hand and whispered his name. He opened his eyes and smiled. "Still here," he said softly. "Yes," I replied. "We both are." And that was enough. Later that day, my daughter called. "I just wanted to hear your voice," she said. We talked about nothing important and everything important. Sometimes love sounds like ordinary conversation. I began giving away small things, books I had finished loving, scarves I no longer wore, notes written in margins meant for someone else. Letting go didn't feel sad, it felt clean. One afternoon, I sat alone in the garden. The flowers my daughter and I had planted were blooming wildly, unapologetically. I laughed quietly. Even at this age, life insists on beauty. A neighbor's child knocked on my door. "My teacher says you tell good stories," she said shyly. I sat her down and told her one, not about pain, not about age, but about courage. When she left, she said, "I want to be brave like you." I whispered to myself, "So do I." Henry passed gently one early dawn. No drama, no struggle, just a breath and then stillness. I cried, yes, but grief did not feel like darkness. It felt like love staying behind. I did not collapse. I did not disappear. I stood, because loving him had taught me how. At his small memorial, I spoke calmly. "He reminded me," I said, "it's never too late to be chosen or to choose." People cried. I smiled through tears. Afterward, I returned home, made tea, and sat by the window, alone, but not empty. Dear listener, this part matters. Loss does not erase love. Age does not erase purpose. Endings do not erase meaning. I continued speaking, writing, listening. My voice grew softer, but clearer. One evening, as the sun dipped low, I looked at my reflection in the glass. Old, yes, but whole.
I no longer ask life for anything. I simply walk with it. And every step, even the slow ones, counts.
After Henry was gone, the house felt different. Not empty, just quieter. Grief did not arrive like a storm. It came like a fog, soft, heavy, and slow. Some days I functioned easily. Other days I sat holding a cup of tea long after it had gone cold, and I let myself. I had learned not to rush pain. People worried about me. They asked, "Are you okay?" I answered truthfully, "I am learning how to be." That was enough. Mornings became sacred. I opened the windows. I spoke Henry's name out loud. I thanked the day for arriving. Love does not disappear when someone leaves. It changes form. One afternoon, I found Henry's notebook, the one he had been writing in. Inside, on the last page, he had written, "Grace taught me how to live again. If you are reading this, remember, love is never late." I pressed the notebook to my chest and cried quietly. Not from loss, from gratitude. My daughter came to stay with me for a while. We cooked together, we cleaned together, sometimes we cried together. One evening, she said, "I was afraid you would disappear after he passed." I looked at her. "I've disappeared before," I said softly. "I won't do that again." She nodded, tears in her eyes. Healing, I realized, also heals others. Weeks passed, then months. I did not count them. I measured time differently now, by moments of calm, by laughter, by the way sunlight touched the walls. I continued mentoring young writers. One of them asked me, "What if my story is painful?" I smiled gently. "Then it's important," I said. "Pain does not make a story weak. Avoiding it does." My health slowed further. I accepted help when needed. I rested when tired. There was no shame in that anymore. Strength is not refusing help. Strength is knowing when to accept it. One evening, I sat alone and spoke softly, not to anyone, but to life itself. "I am ready," I said. Not ready to leave, ready to be at peace. Dear listener, if you are afraid of aging, hear me now. Growing older is not losing yourself, it is finally meeting yourself, without masks, without expectations. I once thought my life's most important chapter was behind me. I was wrong. It was this one, the quiet one, the honest one, the brave one. As night fell, I rested my head back and breathed deeply. I was not forgotten. I was not small. I was not finished. I was Grace. There came a day when I realized something simple and profound. I was no longer waiting, not for permission, not for forgiveness, not for tomorrow. I was simply living inside the moment that arrived. My days became smaller, but richer. I noticed details I once ignored, the sound of birds settling at dusk, the warmth of a cup between my hands, the way memories arrive without knocking. Nothing dramatic, everything meaningful. One afternoon, I received a letter from someone I had never met. "I listened to your story," it said. "I was planning to give up. I didn't." I held the letter for a long time. This, I thought, is why stories matter, not because they are perfect, but because they reach someone in the dark. My daughter began bringing my grandchildren more often. They filled the house with noise, questions, and laughter. "Tell us a story, Grandma," they said. So I did. Not about pain, not about loss, but about courage and how bravery sometimes looks like staying. Later that night, my daughter said, "You're not just my mother anymore, you're my guide."
I smiled. That was never a role I chased. It arrived when I stopped demanding anything from life. My body weakened slowly. I did not fight it. I adapted. A chair by the window, a blanket always nearby, short walks instead of long ones. I treated myself with the kindness I once saved for everyone else. One evening, I dreamed of Henry. He was smiling, peaceful. "You're doing well," he said. I woke with tears, but not sorrow. Some love stays to encourage us. Dear listener, listen closely now. You do not need to be extraordinary to matter. You do not need to be young to begin again. You do not need permission to be gentle with yourself. I once lived believing my worth was measured by usefulness. Now I know better. My worth was always there, waiting for me to notice. As I sit here now, breathing quietly, I feel something rare. Contentment. Not happiness chasing excitement, but peace resting where it belongs. If this story ends tomorrow or continues another year, I am ready, because I finally understand what living means. It means loving without holding back. It means forgiving without erasing yourself. It means choosing presence over fear. And so I remain here, still breathing, still noticing, still becoming. This is not the end. It is the softest chapter of all.
One morning, I noticed my hands shaking slightly as I poured tea. I didn't panic. I simply sat down and waited for them to steady. Patience, I had learned, is a form of love. The doctor spoke gently during my last visit. "Your body is slowing down," he said. "That's natural." I smiled. "So am I replied. There was no fear in my chest, only awareness. Back home, I opened the windows and let fresh air move through the rooms. I wanted the house to breathe with me. I rearranged a few things, moved a chair closer to the light, placed my favorite books where I could reach them easily. Comfort became intentional. That afternoon, Eliza called. "I'm scared," she said. "Everything is changing so fast." I closed my eyes and listened carefully. "Change doesn't mean loss," I told her. "Sometimes it means space is being made." She was quiet for a long moment. "Thank you," she whispered. I knew then that even now I was still teaching, simply by being. I began recording short audio messages. Nothing polished, nothing planned, just my voice, steady and warm. I spoke about fear, about aging, about letting go without bitterness. People listened. Some cried, some healed, some stayed. That was enough. One evening, my granddaughter asked me, "Grandma, do you miss being young?" I thought carefully. "No," I said, "I miss not knowing how strong I was." She nodded, as if filing that away for later. At night, memories visited me freely, not as regrets, as witnesses. They reminded me of who I had been and how far I had come. Dear listener, hear this gently now. Your life does not need a grand ending to be meaningful. Your story does not need applause to be complete. Sometimes the bravest thing is to end softly, knowing you lived truthfully. I once thought aging was a slow disappearance. I was wrong. It is a quiet arrival into yourself, into clarity, into peace. As I rest now, breathing slowly, I feel something warm settle inside me. Acceptance, not surrender, acceptance. As days passed, I noticed something gentle happening inside me. I was no longer counting time, not hours, not weeks, not even years. Time had stopped feeling like something I was losing. It felt like something I was holding. Every morning, I sat by the window a little longer than before. I watched people hurry past, young, busy, distracted. I didn't envy them. I remembered being them, always rushing, always proving, always afraid of stopping. Now, stopping felt like wisdom. One afternoon, a letter arrived from the library where I used to read to children. They were naming the small reading corner after me. Just a chair, a lamp, a plaque with my name. I touched the paper and laughed quietly. All my life, I thought I needed to be useful to be remembered. Turns out, being present was enough. At the small ceremony, children sat on the floor listening to me read one last story. My voice was slower now, but clearer. When I finished, one child asked, "Will you forget us?" I smiled gently. "No," I said. "You live in me now." And they did. When I returned home, I felt tired, but deeply satisfied. That night, I slept without dreams, the kind of sleep that feels like trust. Some days were harder. My legs felt weak, my breath came shorter, my hands tired quickly. I did not complain. Instead, I adjusted. I learned how to ask for help without shame. I learned how to receive kindness without apologizing. That, too, was growth. My daughter began handling more things for me: paperwork, appointments, little worries. One evening, she sat beside me and said, "I used to think taking care of you would feel heavy." I looked at her. "And now?" "Now it feels meaningful." I squeezed her hand. Love matures when it stops resisting responsibility. Sometimes, late at night, memories returned unexpectedly. The laughter, the mistakes, the years I stayed silent when I should have spoken. I did not punish myself anymore. I spoke kindly to my past. "You did the best you could," I whispered, and for the first time, I believed it. One quiet afternoon, I sat with my journal, the same one I had written in for years. I didn't write a story, I wrote truths. That I was afraid once, that I was humiliated, that I was ignored, and that I survived. Not by becoming hard, but by becoming honest. Dear listener, if you're listening to this and carrying regret, let me tell you something important. Regret does not mean you failed. It means you cared, and caring is never wasted. My health slowed more noticeably now. I spent more time resting, less time doing, but my mind stayed clear and my heart stayed open. I understood something deeply. Doing less does not mean being less. One evening, as rain tapped gently against the window, I felt an overwhelming sense of calm. No fear, no urgency, no unfinished business screaming for attention, just peace. I realized I had already said what mattered. I had already loved who mattered. I had already lived fully, even when I didn't realize it at the time. I spoke softly into my recorder that night. "If you're listening to this someday," I said, "please remember, your value is not measured by productivity, youth, or approval. It is measured by truth." I turned it off and smiled. As weeks passed, I spent more time simply observing the way light moved across the floor, the sound of birds settling at dusk, the rhythm of my own breathing. Life became simple again, like childhood, but wiser. One afternoon, my granddaughter asked, "Grandma, are you afraid of dying?" I thought carefully. "No," I said, "I'm not afraid anymore." "Why?" "Because I finally learned to live." She hugged me tightly. Dear listener, this is what I want you to take with you. You do not need to wait for permission to be yourself. You do not need to wait for tragedy to wake up. You do not need to wait for old age to understand what matters. Start now. Speak now. Choose yourself now. I once believed my life ended the day I was humiliated.
I was wrong. That day was the door, and everything after was courage. As I rest here now, breathing slowly, heart steady, I feel no regret, only gratitude. For pain that taught me, for love that surprised me, for time that softened me. And if this is my final chapter, then let it be known, I was not invisible, I was not a burden, I was not forgotten. I was grace, and I lived.
I want you to listen closely. Life is strange. It gives, it takes, and sometimes it teaches in ways we never expect. I have lived a long life, full of laughter, full of mistakes, full of quiet, tender moments no one ever noticed. For years, I thought my voice did not matter. I thought my presence was a burden. I thought I was invisible. But life has a way of showing you truth, even when you are afraid to see it. I learned something very simple, yet so important. Your worth is never measured by what others say. It is measured by how fully you live and how openly you love. I want you to remember this. Love freely, speak your truth, and forgive yourself for all the times you doubted, or stayed silent, or turned away from life. I am not afraid of leaving, because I have already said what needed to be said. I have already loved who needed to be loved. I have already lived fully. Do not mourn me. Do not fear for me. I am not gone. I am in the sunlight that touches your face. I am in the laughter of children. I am in every gentle word you speak and every small act of kindness you give. So if you are listening to this, promise me something. Promise me that you will not wait. Do not wait for tomorrow. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for courage that never comes. Start now. Live now. Love now. I have learned, in the end, the smallest moments, the quietest smiles, the softest touches. These are the things that last. Do not chase recognition. Do not fear mistakes. Do not measure life by what you do. Measure it by who you are when no one is watching. And now, my time is ending, but I leave without fear, without regret, with only gratitude for life, for love, for everything. Goodbye, my dear ones. Remember me, not as someone who suffered, but as someone who finally learned how to live.